So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you are enjoying the conversation which we are having since morning. Some wonderful conversations about, how India is pushing the GI story. So I have with me two gentlemen who are taking us to the foreign shores. Some of the GI battles which we are fighting globally. One is to secure, the product's right to be called as GI, and second aspect is that how to build the infrastructure so that we can ensure that our products get a good display on the shelves. Plus, in the planning of their consumers, they should also understand, what sort of stories, these products have. Ajay, maybe, I can start with you. Your colleagues at FIEO, they are exporting many of their stuff, and GI is now entering into those aspects as well. Tell us that, what sort of stories do they come and tell you that, if I could, rephrase it in a way that, there are many products which have a common heritage point because partition is an artificial boundary lines which we share with Bangladesh as well as with Pakistan. Plus Nepal, there is a agroforestry which we share with Nepal, plus some bit of with China. And there are products which these countries are also, taking the GI. Tangai sari is one of the big examples. Basmati rice is another example. What stories does your colleagues at FIO tell you that how are they battling with these issues?
In fact, when we refer to GI war, basically we relates to geopolitical competitions over the GI product, which are the intellectual property right, and for protecting them in the process, we are also preserving the rich heritage economy and also supporting the exports. I think for us in the field of export, GI is a differentiator. It's a key to premium, more stable export earning also. And of course, its role in promoting a particular region or particular area is undisputable. When it comes to the GI war, we have to be very careful that not only the product get registered at the domestic turf, and we have a GI Goods Registration and Protection Act. Unfortunate part is that not many products are registered into that. Probably 650 odd products are registered, and this is quite minuscule when we look into around 14,000 plus product registered by Germany or 7,200 plus product registered by China. So I think the need of the hour is to, we increase the registration of the product. I personally feel that we should look into registering around 5,000 products in the next 3 years. This is little ambitious, but within the realm of the reach, looking into the ecosystem which the government is providing. A related issue would be definitely to register these products in some of the key markets also to avoid these kinds of dispute. And thirdly, we should have in place a very robust, effective legal mechanism and trade forum, so that if any dispute arises, we put our perspective. If any course correction is needed, that needs to be communicated to the authorized users. And if any strengthening of the certification is required, that too also is addressed. On the exporter front, when it comes to the marketing of the product, I think exporters have been told that they have to emphasize on the unique position of the GI product to get the premium market for that. And everything in the GI for me is about the storytelling. How we tell the story, that is extremely important. And in fact, roughly 15 years back, I went to a family in Europe. They brought probably 3 mangoes from Mexico. With each of the mango which they're cutting at the dinner table, they were talking about a story. So I think that kind of role has to be played. And this is not something which has to be done by the industry. Indian institutions also have a very important role to play. Indian embassy in particular has to come forward for the promotion of the GI, particularly the pre-launch event. I visit number of embassies, and We have seen that in respect of European embassies, whenever any new brand of champagne is launched, they have a pre-launched event where they invite the connoisseur of wines. They also invite the influencer, the social celebrities, so that they create hype. Probably from our perspective also, we need to follow that. And I think the time has come where we have around 600 odd GI product. We should have our own GI shop, at least at the departure and launch of the international airport, to start with India, and then we can look into having it some of the key places like Singapore or Heathrow or in other places also. We also need to look into the free trade agreement very closely.
I'll come to the bilaterals and multilateral later.
Yeah.
Maybe, if we can have Unnat ji into the conversation. Sir, you are handling the intellectual properties, registries for government, and you're seeing so many certification applications coming forth. So when I talk about, the geo wars, there are, certain cases where human migration in last some of the years that also brought in some of the knowledge bases. Secondly, some people have also taken the knowledge base out of the country. The dispute which we had about Texmati and Basmati, it was primarily, this knowledge issue, because those farmers were actually farmers from the Indian origin. And similarly, we have also seen that farmers migrating from Bangladesh or Pakistan, so they also bring, a lot of varieties. Plus artisans, from those sides, they have also brought in those knowledges. And when we are going to the global markets, there's a clash. So how do you see that scenario? And secondly, right now our base is low, 640, 650 odd. When we reach the European level or American levels of GI registries, these disputes will increase. So how are you preparing for that, so that, the case studies become, and, their cases become stronger?
First of all, I think we need to correct ourselves. There is no GI war. There is no war. See, we need to accept that Bharatiya culture, before independence, it was the entire country was having widespread reach. And it is a physical separation which has happened because of this political boundary which got created. And people migrated from the other place to the Indian territory. And when people migrated, they brought the culture. They brought the entire art, artisan. And this is something which is the origin of the Indian culture. And we are required to preserve this. So there is nothing, a word like a war. This is a terrifying effect of the partisan. हिंदी में कहे तो विभाजन की एक दर्दनाक विभीषिका है ये. We have to accept this. And there is a provision globally also to have the recognition of the GI both the side. Homonymous effect of a GI, coexistence of the GI, is something which is required to be explored, and India is always positive towards this. As our culture and ethos says that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, this is the real sense of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in GI also. The Tangali Sari which you have mentioned, the Basak community which migrated from the east of Bengal to the Fulia village in the Santipur, and then coexistence of a Santipur art and Tangali craft. This is no longer, we can't disregard this fact. And this fact need to be recognized, and that's why the Bharatiya Tangali Sari. And that is required to be recognized as a coexistence. Similarly, the people who migrated from Sindh Pradesh to the western part of the Rajasthan, near Jaisalmer, and they preserved the culture of a beautiful music and musical instrument. Unfortunately, people have been passed through a very painful journey, but still they have preserved the culture, they have preserved their art. Even on the agricultural aspect also, what you have mentioned, there is a coexistence, even in a basmati. We need to recognize this. We are quite positive on this. Mr. Dev in previous session also mentioned about the 34 places where they are trying to get the basmati registration done. And this fact, I think it is required to be recognized. I agree with you on the amplification is required in the GI registration. India has a potential of a 20 to 25,000 GI. We have started this, and government is quite positive on this. GI registry has a facilitation role, which we have seen, and majority of the experts who are there in the audience and the GI Sevak who are there here are trying to catalyze the entire momentum towards recognizing the community right. And we shall be preparing ourselves so that all the GI rights are recognized. There is a sharp jump of almost 25% GI registered in last 2 years, and almost 800% jump in authorized user registration. So this awareness is there, and awareness has started building the momentum towards the GI-centric ecosystem. This GI Samagam will really be amplifying if we could able to achieve the more number of filing. And as I have discussed with Himaniji also, every month we want to conduct the CGMs. So this will again build up the momentum in the country.
Thank you, Unnatji. Ajayji, one aspect is registering the GI. Second aspect is to take those products and ability to say those stories to the to people who may not understand the culture. When we talk about wines and liquor from Europe, all of them have stories. And those places proudly say those stories, and those stories also travel to all parts of the world, or even, other products. How do you think that, multilaterals and bilaterals play, this role where this can become part of the trade negotiations so that those countries where we are entering into a bilateral or, a multilateral is happening, so they can also preserve, help us in preserving those stories. And secondly, I also want to understand from you that, since, everybody across the world is talking about WTO's, this dispute redressal system, I'm sure this must be in the agenda of Donald Trump as well, that he wants to withdraw from that. But, how we can use such platforms to settle many of the patent as well as GI, disputes. So help us in understanding those two.
In fact, if you look at India, we are very actively now pursuing our free trade agreement. There has been complete revisit on the free trade agreement. If SMEs can be part of the free trade agreement now, why not the GI? And in fact, when we are looking into the GI from the free trade agreement perspective, our focus has to come on the mutual recognition as well as protecting the GI. If you look into the European Union, GI has been one of the central theme of their free trade agreement. We are also in the process of negotiating one with the European Union. I'm not sure whether European Union will go for the traditional recognition of their GI, or they will provide a list of the GI which should be deemed to be registered in India. But whatever be their strategy, probably we have to ask them to reciprocate for us also, that our GI also get the market registration in the European Union for the benefit of all the authorized user. Secondly, I think we need to align with the countries who are protecting GI, who are promoting GI from the onslaught of the global cooperation. There are 167 countries in the world who protect GI as an intellectual property right. Probably the time has come when we form a group so that we have one voice for the GI. And thirdly, I think it's equally important that we proactively engage in any infringement issue of the GI, so that Indian story is also told before any verdict is about to be made. We also need to register GI. For example, if you look into the case of turmeric, why it happened? Because turmeric was not registered in the US. Had it been registered in the US, it may not have gone to Mississippi University. The good thing is that CSIR played a very positive role, and finally we won the case. But these things can be avoided with a proactive intervention. That's why I'm saying that while at the domestic turf, our authorized users are playing a very important role, probably we require much more stronger role by the government authorities also with reference to the exports of the GI product.
Unaji, your office will play a big role, and I'm sure it is already playing a big role. There has to be, more stories which need to be told. So how are you helping, these players to prepare in the language which could be understood by, their global counterparts? How are you assisting them in, building up those cases? And when we come across disputes, I'm sure they must be asking for the data from you. So what sort of assistance do you provide there, sir?
See, for all the applications which has been put forward to the GI registry, our role is to facilitate this application. We check the GI-ness, whether the GI-ness is there or not, the historical relevance which is reported into the literature. And based on that, this will build up the story of a GI. The Pithora painting which has been mentioned by Ram Singh ji is something which is a typical story. And the amount of work which is involved into this and the way this is being prepared. Similarly, the Ahimsa silk in Northeast. So everywhere the silk is prepared being traditional made. But there are few people who wants the Ahimsa silk. So this is the story around which is to be prepared. Similarly, the kind of painting which is being made from the natural colors. So all these are required to brought it into the proper documentation. And with GI registration which we are granting, we are trying to prepare this basic documentation which is available. And that's why even before the CGM we conduct so many pre-CGM meetings. So that pre-CGM meetings help the GI facilitator and the GI community applicant to understand the need and how this GI can further be amplified to the global landscape on the quality aspect, on the consistency aspect, and the packaging aspect also. The branding of the GI, even many GI applicants come with their GI logo. And we try to discuss around this so that how the impact can be amplified. The name is having a significance, each and every GI. So we prefer to have the name in their own language. And that's why so many corrections which is required to be done, and we conduct the pre-CGM meetings, maybe virtually or even physically, and GI registry is always trying to facilitate this momentum. ये community right है. We have to facilitate the community. One such right which is granted will impact the life of thousands of people and thousands of family. And there they will earn their revenue. Murena Gajak, the classic example that before the GI registration, the entire Gajak preparation and manufacturing was going downside. And after GI registration, 40 families came back to the Murena and they have started their family business. And that has offered the survival of this entire product. And classic Gajak is now available, accessible in adequate quantity. The Joy Nagar Moa is again the cross-border amplification, how this has happened. The Moa is the sweet in West Bengal which is prepared in Joynagar. The shelf life of this sweet is 3 days. Now, with the help of a GI facilitator and the Indian Post has also helped here, the packaging was improved. And from 3 days of a shelf life, it has amplified to the 15 days. And advance booking through e-commerce platform. So Bengali living in any part of a world, they can enjoy the Joy Nagar Muva anywhere. And they do the advance booking, the dispatch, which vendor has prepared, from where it is dispatched, how much time it will take to the destination. Even in US, Canada or Japan, the Bengali person can enjoy this sweet. This is beyond the territory. And this is the classic approach. Through facilitation, this has been amplified. And there are several such examples which we need to facilitate, we need to amplify in the interest of the community.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And I could enjoy the joy on your face while telling these stories. Thank you very much. Since, Ajay, you are not part of the government and you have the opportunity, can you list me 2 or 3 things which you think that Government of India or Ministry of Commerce need to do very quickly to ensure India's case across the world?
I think we should look for more collaboration amongst the ministry. It's good that DPIT is the nodal ministry, but we require ministries such as Ministry of Agriculture, Food Processing, Ministry of Environment and Forest, Tribal Department, Culture, Textile, and also Tourism to be involved in promoting the GI. They should have separate scheme, separate policy, and probably the separate budget to push for that. Secondly, I think these kind of session should be thought of on a long-term basis. It should not be one-off affair. We should have National Convention of GI every year on a fixed date, and that plan should be rolled for next 5 to 10 years. Thirdly, probably we have to look into what he said needs to exploit the potential of the global e-marketplaces, because we are looking into that by 2030 we will have our e-commerce to take the export to around 250 to 300 billion. I will be very happy if that 25% of the share goes to the GI products.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you. You wanted to say something, or?
One such example, last year in the World Intellectual Property Organization, there was a exhibition wherein we have encouraged the GI. You may not believe that people were smelling the Alfonso mango and the people and the various, even the saffron in a small bottle, they were opening and taking a smell of a saffron. The people are loving the Indian GI. It's our role, collective role, to allow the access of this product outside India. And there is a need and there is a facilitation required for the promotion of this product. In India also people are loving this. I think we need to have the proper supply chain framework to amplify the impact of GI and each district, each part of the country and outside India also. Thank you.
Thank you. I skipped, this time's up notification because I was enjoying this conversation, but I really want to thank you for taking your time out and, enriching us with your thoughts. Thank you very much.